Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sid, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the owner of Travis the Chimp, Sandra Herold, and the second chimp she was involved with. If you saw my first video on Travis the Chimp, you will know that I went into a little bit of detail about Sandra's backstory. So in this video I'm just going to take off mostly from after Travis's death. So after Travis was shot by police for severely mauling Sandra's friend and employee, Charla Nash, Sandra's life completely changed. And that was not the first time a significant change happened in her life. Her daughter Susan died in a car crash in 2000, and her husband Jerry died of stomach cancer in 2004. On Jerry's deathbed, he told Sandra that it would be best for both her and Travis if Travis went to a chimpanzee sanctuary. Jerry knew that he would be too much for Sandra to manage alone. Years earlier, when Travis was a lot smaller and Jerry planned on living a long life with Sandra and Travis, he designed an extension to the home especially for Travis. But when Jerry was dying of stomach cancer, he decided that it was best that that didn't come to fruition and that Travis went to a sanctuary instead. A year after Jerry died, it seemed as though that Sandra was going to take her late husband's advice, because she sat down and wrote a letter to a chimpanzee sanctuary in Florida. I live alone with Travis, we eat and sleep together, but I am worried that if something happens to me as suddenly as my husband, what would happen to Travis? Therefore, I have to try to do something before that happens. She enclosed some pictures of Travis and a check for $250, but she never mailed the letter. Instead, she continued to manage him alone, and in early 2008, she arranged the construction of the home extension that Jerry designed years earlier. But it never got put to use. It was still in mid-construction when Travis died. Choosing to try and accommodate Travis, opposed to sending him to a sanctuary, played a big role for what happened to Charla Nash. Not only did it completely ruin Charla's life, but it also brought on a big wave of criticism towards Sandra. In the immediate aftermath, she started receiving harassing phone calls, but not because her chimp almost killed somebody, but because she was responsible for her chimp dying.
And then some people giving these calls like I ought to rot in hell for killing him. I mean, here's something that was like my son.
Sandra and her relatives believed that it was the animal rights group PETA behind making those phone calls, but PETA denied doing that. Sandra's close relationship with Travis was also another point of discussion. It was heavily suggested that Sandra had a very strange, intimate relationship with Travis.
Travis's owner had a very strange relationship with him. She dressed him, she bathed with him, she shared a bed with him, she medicated him. The relation, I think to most people, you read about this kind of relationship between an animal and a human being, it just sounds so bizarre.
And rumors of their relationship spread throughout the local community and even trickled through to the police force, who helped on the day of the attack.
And this has been reported back and forth. I don't know if you ever heard it. There was thing talks about sexual relations with it.
You know, it's funny, and I was thinking that, and I go, I probably no one ever heard that. I did hear it. I can't swear to, but I did hear that. But she made a joke to me, you know, right that day. She goes, oh, he's in my bed with me, and I laughed it off. Oh, what the heck? Or I took a bath with him or something. I was like some weird thing. I was like, it's more than I want to know here, you know, but it could have been just her, but I have heard that.
But what may have appeared as a strange relationship from the outside was just a very intense love for an animal that she considered her son.
He could have been more my son than if I gave birth to him.
And it's pretty common for people who own chimps to have a very intense love for their chimps. Connie Casey, a friend of Sandra's and the person who bred Travis the Chimp, said that holding a baby chimpanzee was more special than holding her own children.
There's nothing better than a baby chimp in your arms.
Really? What's it feel like?
Yeah, very close to having your human baby, you know. And I shouldn't say this, but it was almost even more thrilling because it was extra special. Not that my kids weren't special, but it was just a different feeling.
And Tonya Haddix, a woman who later owned some of Connie's chimps, said she loved them more than her own kids.
You know, we love these kids. I love these kids more than anything in the world, and I mean more than anything, more than my kids, more than anything.
And Sandra's love for Travis continued far after his death. Every night she would sleep with an urn of his ashes in bed. She also grew a lot closer to her friends who could relate to what she was going through. She would spend hours on the phone with Connie, telling her that she wished that she could be with Travis and the rest of her late family. Another exotic animal owner that Sandra grew close to during that time was Pam Rosaire. Pam is a family member, a part of the Rosaire family Circus, which is run alongside an unaccredited sanctuary called the Big Cat Habitat and Gulf Coast Sanctuary. The Rosaire Circus hosts a group of chimpanzees that once traveled for parades, circuses, and festivals, but now spend most of their time on the property in Florida, stuck inside a trailer.
I don't get fear. I kind of get mad when they try to hurt me sometimes.
During the time that Sandra was becoming closer to Pam, chimpanzees in the media was becoming more frowned upon. And after what happened to Charla, the demand for pet chimpanzees went down the tubes. Along with that and tightened restrictions around owning chimpanzees looming, a lot of breeders halted their breeding operations, including Connie Casey. Even after what happened to Charla, Sandra said she would do it all over again.
After what you've been through with this, your friend is in the hospital fighting for her life. Do you still think chimps should be pets?
Would I have done it again? Yes.
But when she wanted to do it all over again, young chimps that she could still handle and impress upon were few and far between. There were still two though, and Sandra wanted to get her hands on one of them. The chimps were Chance and Eli. Eli turned out to be the last chimp used in Hollywood, and Chance still performs at the Big Cat Habitat. And at the time, Eli was also at the Big Cat Habitat. Eli was under a year old at the time, and he was actually in the middle of a custody battle with Connie Casey's ex-husband Mike Casey, and he was actually owned by Hollywood animal trainer Steve Martin, who then gave him to Ginny Valbuena to raise him for a few years because her chimps were nicer than his chimps. Pam also stepped in to help look after Eli. She worked with Eli's caretaker at the time, Ginny, to use Eli to try and bring in customers to the Big Cat Habitat, offering experiences with him for a fee. With already so many people caring for Eli and another person trying to claim ownership of him, Sandra decided to bond with Chance. She would travel to Florida just to see Chance. She would play with him, tickle his belly, he would climb all over her, and they would snuggle together. When she would return to Connecticut, she would leave him behind and then send money back to Pam to look after him. But you know what's something that you don't want to leave behind? Today's sponsor, the Galaxy Projector. Nowadays, seeing a clear night sky can be a bit of a rarity. There's so many streetlights that obscure the night sky and smog depending on where you live. So with the Galaxy Projector, you can have your own personal night sky. It will transform any room into a planetarium and give it a truly unique look and feel. It also has a bunch of features that you can use to make it truly yours. Using the app connected to it, you can fully customize the RGB colors, the rotation speed, on-off timers, the brightness, and much more. It also has similar features to an Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant. It listens to verbal commands like telling it to turn on or change modes. One of the best things about it is that it is energy efficient. You can enjoy your own personal Galaxy without having to worry about it using too much electricity, and you can get one by clicking the link at the top of the description box, and don't forget to use the discount code Sid Dwyer to get 15% off. Okay, so back to the video. It's hard to work out where Chance would have been better off, at the Big Cat Habitat or in Connecticut with Sandra, but one thing is for sure. He never should have been ripped away from his mother as a baby. Chance is a third-generation captive-born chimp born in Savannah Land, Missouri. He was purchased by a family for $65,000, and he was originally named Aiden. The family who purchased him didn't realize how much work it would be to raise a baby chimp, so when he was 7 months old, they sold him to Pam Rosaire, and it was her who renamed him to Chance.
Now, named him Chance because it was his last chance to get a permanent home and never have to leave it ever again. And my last chance to have a baby at my age. Believe me, it was painless.
He was soon doing commercials, events, and movies, which is pretty similar to Travis the Chimp's start. The big cat habitat is supposed to be a sanctuary, but any legitimate sanctuary would not put their animals to work like that. Most good sanctuaries who take in chimps know how to help chimps be chimps again after they have been humanized. Many pet chimps come from abnormal living conditions like sleeping with their owners, being on leashes, or performing in some way, and a good sanctuary should just help them be chimps again. But Chance went from one environment like that to another. But Pam insisted that Chance loved to work.
He's an avid little actor and he enjoys what he does, and he just enjoys working.
One of the biggest brands he did commercial work for was Tropicana Juice. But as much as he supposedly loved to do that, a large number of the public did not like that they were using a chimp in their commercial. People took to social media to criticize their use of Chance. Then 72 hours later, Tropicana took down that ad. Kay Rosaire, Pam's sister and owner of the sanctuary, said that chimps on the screen helps them because they're endangered.
Because there are very few chimpanzees of his character and ability that are around anymore, and you know, it's really important that people see these amazing exotic animals and hopefully they'll want to protect them. So we're very happy that he'll have this great exposure, make people aware that chimpanzees are severely endangered in the wild.
But 2 studies have been done that indicate that chimps in the media don't help conservation. In 2005, visitors to the Regenstein Center for African Apes at the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago were surveyed to select the great ape species, chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans that were considered endangered. 95% of people thought gorillas were endangered, 91% thought orangutans were endangered, but only 66% believed that chimpanzees were endangered. When informed that chimps were endangered, 35% of the respondents said that they didn't think chimps were endangered because of their common portrayal in TV, movies, and commercials. In 2006, a similar study was repeated at the Great Ape Trust in Iowa with similar results. 94% of people thought gorillas were endangered, 92% thought orangutans were endangered, and 72% thought chimps were endangered. So Chance being used in the media was far from the best thing for him, as well as far from the best thing for his species. So chimp advocate Dawn Forsyth privately emailed Pam offering to purchase Chance from her so that she could take him to an accredited sanctuary. After Pam ignored her email, Dawn made it an open letter on her blog, which Pam still ignored. Pam still didn't take that offer even when there was one less person funding Chance's life, because Sandra Harold died. In May 2010, 15 months after Travis's attack on Charla, Sandra's chest started to hurt. She made it into the hospital and was prepped for surgery, but her lungs filled with blood and she died from a ruptured aortic aneurysm. Her lawyer made a statement basically saying that she died from a broken heart and simply couldn't take it anymore. Her obituary asked for donations to Pam's chimp fund at the Big Cat Habitat in lieu of flowers. She was then buried in an animal print shirt and her fingernails were painted pink. In her casket was the urn of her daughter daughter's ashes, as well as the urn of Travis's ashes. No further work had been done on the house extension for Travis, so leaves and snow blew in through the unfinished windows. It also gave thieves an easy access point. Sandra was relatively wealthy, so one would assume that her house was filled with valuables. And it didn't help that rumors spread that there was $80,000 in cash hidden somewhere in the house. So 2 months after her death, her house had been broken into and rummaged through 5 times. And burglars weren't the only ones entering her unoccupied house. A journalist for the New York magazine trespassed on her property and went through her home.
You know, and I trespassed on the property. You know, everything had been frozen in time because Sandy had died not long after Travis had. And that sort of, and there was the ongoing lawsuit from Charlotte which froze everything. So literally the house was just frozen as it was the day that she died. So, you know, I trespassed and I sort of really went as far as I could.
He compiled a bunch of information for an article and saw a life-sized stuffed chimpanzee sitting in Travis's room. After the lawsuit between Charla and Sandra's estate came to a settlement of $4 million in 2012, the burglars and journalists were replaced with Sandra's distant family members. They stepped up to help remodel the house to get it ready for sale.
Sandy's room. And this is where Travis used to be.
While most parts of Sandra's life were being completely wiped out, one thing remained: chance. Much like Sandra, circuses were dying out, so Pam had to take on more opportunities to show chance in the media. And Eli, the other baby chimp who was sometimes shared with Pam and the big cat habitat, was returned to his owner, Steve Martin. So as a cute baby chimp, all of the weight was on Chance's shoulders to bring in the money. In 2013, he appeared in the Wolf of Wall Street movie alongside Leonardo DiCaprio. He had to learn how to roller skate for the role. Pam began him skating on one foot before adding the second about 3 weeks later. Kay, Pam's sister, spoke to the Sarasota Herald Tribune about Chance and Leo's relationship. She said they really liked each other, they worked well together. But what wasn't liked was the fact that a chimp was being used. Animal advocates called for a boycott of the movie. Pam did an interview with the animal advocacy group called Friends of Animals, where she talked about how she trained Chance to do what he did in the movie. I'm the matriarch and they do what I tell them to do. I make them listen, they're very childlike. If they don't listen, I make them sit down and do a timeout. That's the worst thing for a chimp, to force him to sit still in a chair alone until he listens. Bob Ingersoll, a primatologist who was a part of the Nim Chimpsky documentary, said, "What she's doing is withholding affection and reassurance, something you'd never do to an infant. It's wrong and creates long-term psychological damage. Chimps don't naturally withhold affection and reassurance like that long-term." It wasn't until several years later that a much bigger wave of controversy hit the Rosaires. Footage of Chance being yanked around by a rope at the big cat habitat surfaced. This got a bunch of media attention, and for the second time, Chance was being offered a way out. Peter sent a letter to Leo and the director Martin Scorsese asking to help Chance. The letter said, "Our team recently obtained this footage of Chance, the chimpanzee used in The Wolf of Wall Street. As you'll see, he's still being used in a circus sideshow, tethered and forced to perform in front of frightening crowds. There's still time to help him. Will you? Please let us know." But Chance was not rescued. Peter offered to transfer him to an accredited sanctuary at no cost to them, but they declined. They still needed to make money off of him, and of course they didn't see the need for him to go to another sanctuary when they were a sanctuary. And after all, according to Pam, she rescues chimps.
I've rescued chimps my whole life. This is my son.
But there is a sign at the big cat habitat that says that none of their chimps were rescued. Chance actually became friends with a dog on their property, but that dog ran away.
This is Chance. He's a 3-year-old chimpanzee who lives at the big cat habitat. Chance is a constant ball of energy, much like a child going through terrible twos, but he hasn't been himself lately. His dog and best bud, Grace, is missing.
I'm sure if Chance wasn't tied to a rope all of the time, then he would also make a run for it as well. Chance is still performing at the big cat habitat, and I'm sure he will be for as long as possible. Pam has continued to work her chimps well after the highly recommended age of 8 years old. What happened with Sandra, Charla, and Travis is a cautionary tale that I definitely do not hope happens again. So Chance will soon be a danger to the public, to Pam, and it will be psychologically crippling to him. This is a graph made by the North American Primate Sanctuary Alliance showing everywhere chimpanzees are still legal to own. If you live in one of those areas, please support the Captive Primate Safety Act. Below I'll have a link to a website where you can send an email to your local legislators about it. All you have to do is fill in your details and it will form an email and work out which legislators cover your area. It is super easy. So yeah, that is pretty much everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let's take a moment of silence for all of the chimpanzees still in captivity and all of the people who have fallen victim to irresponsible chimpanzee owners. And I will see you in my next video.